You are listening to Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, unknown actors with me, Louise, the artistic director of Standby Method Acting Studio. And for the last 13 years, I've been taking unknown actors with blank CVs all the way to Netflix dramas, Amazon Prime films, TV soaps, and stage plays around the world. And every week I'll be talking with you and sharing how you can become a paid working unstoppable actor, because you 1000% can. An acting career is doable. Are you ready to dive into the episode? Hello, welcome back to the podcast. It's so exciting to have you here. And if you are new to the podcast, welcome. I am so happy you found us, because today I am going to be giving you a tutorial on self-tapes that you do not want to miss, because we want to be creating self-tapes that hit the spot. What I mean by hit the spot is they make the casting director watch right until the very end. And then at the very end, they're like, wow, that was an incredible performance. And they want to call you in to an in-person audition. Or they want to cast you based off the self-tape. This is what we want. But the problem is, a lot of actors get in a flap about self-tapes, understandably, and they spend far too much time on them. They do 1,000,001 takes, and then they get in a flap about the performance, and then they get in a flap about all the technicalities of it. There are lots of things to get in a flap about with self-tapes, but when you listen to this episode, you're going to feel assured and confident with them, because when you flap, that energy passes through the screen, because the camera never lies. We don't want you flapping. We want you showing up on these self-tapes like a true pro, delivering a character that has got nuance and depth and takes that casting director on a journey. So for that moment in their day, when they're going through all of the self-tapes with yours, they actually forget they're watching an audition and they get caught up in this character's journey, because you have completely immersed in the role and you've given them exactly what they're looking for. So how do we even get to that then? It's what you do before the self-tape that counts. Like directly before the self-tape, those moments leading up to actually hitting record, and what you do when you first get that script. So it's in the preparation. So there's 3 steps to this. We're going to look at the preparation. We're going to look at the moments before we hit record on your device, whatever you're using. And then we're going to look at the actual self-tape itself, and then what we do afterwards. So 3 steps to this tutorial. You can grab a pen if you want. Maybe you want to download the episode so you can listen to it again and again. Maybe you want to share it somewhere so you've always got it there to refer back to when you next get a self-tape in. So let's talk about the pre-self-tape preparation then. You have got to read the script as many times as you can. You're doing this because you are extracting all of the information that you can get your hands on about the character. Because the more information you get, the more ideas you get in your imagination, the more your imagination is fueled, and the more confident you feel in playing this character. So don't get into the habit of only reading the script 2 or 3 times. Set aside time to read it as many times as you can, with the time frame that you have from being offered the audition to actually having to sub it. Take a break and then go and read it again. And when I say take a break, that could be a day's break. It could be for 2 hours you go off and do something else, and then you come back to it. But you want to keep reading it with fresh eyes to get as much information as possible, because if you don't, you're missing clues. What happens when you miss clues is you give a performance that lacks depth and it's harder to connect to. And when something is harder to connect to, you don't feel confident in what you're doing. And that lack of confidence, as I've already said, reads. We want you to have stage presence, screen presence in this case. Screen presence is when people can't take their eyes off you. They're really engaged in what you're doing. They want to watch more and more and more. And it all starts with what you do before you get that self-tape. So read the script as many times as you possibly can, even if that seems like it's going to be really challenging. And every time you read it with a fresh pair of eyes and go into the fresh read with, what else can I discover about this character that I haven't seen? That's the approach that you want to take with it. So that's the prep. That's the first part. Then the second part of this tutorial is that it's all about what you do in the moments leading up to the self-tape, leading up to the moment when you hit record. And what it's actually about is relaxing, completely relaxing, because when you don't relax, you give off a nervous energy, which obviously, again, reads on camera because the camera never lies. So I want to tell you about the method acting triangle. The method acting triangle has got 3 points on it. At the top is relaxation. If you follow the triangle along, at the bottom right side, you've got concentration. And then on the third and final point on the left-hand side, you've got imagination. For you to give a sublime performance, and this is what we want, you've got to have all of those 3 elements in place. Relaxation is so important because that means you can absolutely immerse in that role. You can step into their shoes with not a nerve in sight. Now, it's okay to have some nerves if you can control them and they don't blur the clarity of the character and they don't lead to mental tension, which is thoughts such as, oh my God, am I doing this right? Does it sound natural? Which, by the way, if you're just focusing on the lines, you're never going to get the role because it's not about the character. So the relaxation part is very, very important because it allows you to feel confident to explore when you're hitting record, to execute what you've prepped, and to take risks and make interesting character choices. So before you do any self-tapes, you have got to relax. Now, the second point on the triangle is focus. Focus, and this is what will help you give one of those brilliant performances that people can't take their eyes off. When you focus, you have to focus on the method acting exercise that you need that really gets you to believe in their situation as if it's your own. Now, that could be sense memory, which puts you completely into the environment of the character. It could be personalization or substitution, which allows you to make that emotional connection. It could be animal exercise, which allows you to physically embody the role. It could be, there's a plethora of method acting exercises, but the focus part is I choose one of those exercises. After I've relaxed, I do that exercise, and that leads me nicely into the self-tape. So then when you're in the self-tape and you hit record, the third point of the triangle, which is imagination, is flowing beautifully. And you're actually forgetting that you're recording a self-tape and you are finding new moments and you're doing new things with the character that fit the given circumstances in the script, but that are very, very mesmerising to watch. So you've got to have all 3 of those elements in place: relaxation, concentration, imagination. So that's what you're doing leading up to hitting record. Now, one thing I also want to share with you is, in terms of the technical stuff, setting up the lighting, finding that backdrop where it's playing, setting up your camera, do all of that way before you do these exercises. Like, set this up maybe an hour before, or whatever's doable for you time-wise, or maybe just have a space in your house, which is always used for self-tapes, and you've got everything packed neatly around that so you can just unpack it quickly. I've got all my stuff, my tripod, my lighting, all of that. It's in a basket close to where I do the self-tape, so I'm not having to faff. I know where everything is, I'm organised, nothing gets lost. So you're going to want to do that as well. So that's pre-self-tape prep, which is very, very important for allowing you to go into the self-tape confident, organised, and without any stress. Now, the third part of this is the actual take. My personal rule is no more than 3 takes, because after 3 takes, you can't be objective on what is a good performance, and you'll start to be picky, and you'll start to find things in each performance that you don't like, and then other bits that you do like. Just can't be objective. 3 takes gives you a deadline, which encourages energy and focus. If after 3 takes I've done absolutely appalling in all 3, I will definitely do another, but then I'll self-reflect afterwards and go, well, why wasn't I focused in the first 3 takes? And usually it's because my method acting triangle is a bit skew-if and something's been missing off of it. But once you get into the habit of doing 3 takes and using that method acting triangle, from here on in, you'll only ever need to do 3 takes. Now, there's something else like this post self-tape stuff, and you can do what you want with this. But after I've sent it, I then forget about it. If I know I've done a decent job, I'll be like, okay, I learned something from that. I'll always self-reflect and go, yep, I've done a decent job. Why did I do a decent job? Oh yeah, because of this. I'll always self-reflect. If I didn't do as good as what I thought, again, I will self-reflect in an objective way and go, what was missing? Did I not do enough preparation? Did I not read the script enough? Did I miss any clues out? Was there something missing off the method acting triangle? Was I allowing life stresses to get in the way before I actually hit record rather than focusing on what I needed to do? So I'll always self-reflect, and that's what you need to do. So that is the post self-tape work to do as well, is self-reflect, because you can only improve if you do that. It's not about nitpicking at yourself. It's not about giving yourself a hard time and going, oh, I'm shit. We don't want any of that. We need to be objective. When you're objective, you're creating a culture within yourself of being a confident actor who's always evolving, who's always learning. And it should be that in a year's time, you can look back at your self-tapes and go, wow, I'm a different actor to who I was 1 year ago. I did the best that I could a year ago, and that was good enough for then. But now my self-tapes are even better and my performances are even better, because reviewing And all these things that I've shared in this self-tape tutorial allow for that confidence, which improves your screen presence, which means you are watchable. Now, if you want to go further with what I've taught you in this episode, I've got a workshop coming up Sunday the 26th of November. It's currently free of charge. We've got limited places. It's called Ultimate Confidence, Turbocharge Your Screen Presence and Book More Roles. And we're going to be taking what we've dived into in this episode even further by getting practical with a couple of method acting exercises that are going to help you feel the most confident you've ever felt about your performances, your characters, your auditions, your productions, so you can improve that screen presence and start getting more of the roles that you've got your eyes on that you want. Link is underneath the episode. Hope you found this episode inspiring and it's left something with you. I'll see you in the workshop and I'll also see you in the next episode. Take care. I've absolutely loved hanging out with you and I really hope you found this episode inspiring. If you have, please do rate the podcast and hit follow so you never miss an episode and I can help more actors like you. And come and join one of the most supportive, uplifting acting communities on socials, the Unstoppable Actors Facebook group, where you'll get your weekly injection of inspiration, networking, and receive your free Method Actors handbook so you can become an unstoppable actor.